Vinyl tag season. Yes! I'm going to start off with the Americana Vinyl Tag from my pal Sam St. John. So stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to Northern Revolutions. I'm Rob. Welcome back if you're returning. Welcome if you're new. It is vinyl tag season. It's exciting. I love vinyl tag season. Generally, the 2025 vinyl tag just rolls out at the beginning of the year. A couple weeks earlier this year, but that's cool. I'm excited to do it. There's a couple other vinyl tags floating around. But the first one that I'm going to do is the Americana Vinyl Tag for 2025, done by my good friend Sam St. John. Check out Sam's channel, Americana Sam. I did it last year, and I did a kind of a different spin on it last year. An official self-proclaimed ambassador of Canadian music in the vinyl community. That's what I like to think of myself as. Anyway, I put a Canadian spin on the Americana Vinyl Tag. Americana music is a genre. There is a Canadiana genre that is very, very similar in terms of sound. It's, you know, sort of the same kind of rootsy, folky, blended with a little bit of rock, whatever you want to call it. That sort of Americana sound. We kind of have a Canadian version of that too, that also has sort of some thematic undertones that sort of resonate with the Canadian cultural experience. So to that end, last year I answered Sam's questions using strictly Canadiana music. So Canadian artists that fit into that sort of Canadian roots, folk, rock kind of genre. And when Sam was uploading his 2025 Americana tag, he texted me and he said, "I'm uploading my Americana tag. I expect another Canadian response." Not one to disappoint my pal Sam. I'm going to do just that. And I just noticed as I'm saying that, this is totally a coincidence that I'm wearing a Montreal Canadian sweatshirt. It's only because it's cold in my basement. But happy accident. So, Sam has 15 questions, and I'm going to do my best to answer them in my own unique Canadian way. So the first thing Sam wants us to do, just to give a shout out to another channel and sort of the hope is to inspire them to take on the Americana Vinyl Tag. I guess I'm going to go with my pal Curtis over at Young LP Lovers. I think he's got a very, very diverse collection, so he might be able to do it. Canadian or American, however you want to play it, man. I think he might be able to do it. Sam's first question, number one, what is your favorite Canadiana, that's what I'm going to say from now on, favorite Canadiana album of 2024? Easy. This is an album I never expected would ever happen. This is an album by a band called Cuff the Duke called Breaking Dawn. I love Cuff the Duke. Local band for me. I know a couple of guys in the band. They released, half a dozen albums and sort of took an indefinite hiatus after 2012 and played one or two shows since then. Just got busy with other projects, and I thought, Cuff the Duke's they're never gonna put out anything new. Then out of nowhere, they dropped a new album. Blew me away. 12 years in the making, this album. So for that reason alone, wow, I'm over the moon excited that they did this. Also, it's a very good record. It fits nicely in with the rest of Cuff the Duke's discography. I'm going to go see these guys this coming Saturday. They're playing in my hometown as the farewell to their tour in support of this album. Haven't seen them play as a band in 12 years. So very, very excited that Cuff the Duke put out a new album. That wouldn't have been on my bingo card at the beginning of the year if you'd asked me. So Cuff the Duke are kind of a sort of a folky, alt-country rock kind of thing. Great group of guys. Love their sound. Lots of jangly guitars. It's awesome. You dig this, Sam, I think, for sure. So, Cuff the Duke, Breaking Dawn, my favorite Canadiana album of 2024. Number two, show your favorite Canadiana song of 2024. one of the masters himself, Jim Cuddy. Inductee this year into the Canadian Songwriting Hall of Fame. He's already in the Canadian Music Hall of Fame. Songwriting royalty in Canada, let's be honest. This is his solo album that just came out. It's called All the World Fades Away. Really like it. Signed, just like the Cuff the Duke record. Jim is sort of, the father of that sort of singer-songwriter of my generation, basically. Been doing it almost 40 years now. Great solo record, really enjoy it. There's a song in here called You Belong, which I think was the second single off of the record. The first one was called Learn to Live Alone. It's just the typical Jim, jangly, country rock kind of thing that he's known for, balladeer kind of stuff. What about that song in particular? It's just catchy. That's all it is, like countless other of Jim's songs. I think this is probably the standout song on this album. If you've heard any of Jim's other solo stuff, be it The Light That Guides You Home or Countrywide Soul or Constellation, it's the same kind of thing. So my favorite song, Canadiana of 2024, You Belong by Jim Cuddy. Number 3, favorite Canadiana song with a banjo. Maybe the most recognizable Canadian song with a banjo is these fellas, the Stampeders. These guys are a country-ish, pop-ish group from the 70s. I think they came from Saskatchewan or Alberta. Might be wrong on that. They're still going. Unfortunately, the bass player, whose name escapes me, passed away just recently. But the other two guys are still going. They had a monster hit off of this record called Sweet City Woman. Massive radio hit back in the 70s, and every Canadian knows it when they hear it. And the hook in this song is the banjo. There is a lead guitar part, but it's secondary to the banjo. It's just a banjo riff that plays through this whole song. Played by this fella here. I don't remember his name. He's the lead singer. It's very, very recognizable banjo part. And to every Canadian, you hear the first two bars and you know that it's Sweet City Woman by the Stampeders. Number 5, show your favorite acoustic guitar player. I have several, but I think I'm going to show this guy. Right there. That is a guy by the name of Jim Boskill. Jim has had a very long history in Canadian music. I first heard about him when he was with this band, the Sheepdogs. The Sheepdogs are a band from Saskatchewan. Their claim to fame was they won that Rolling Stone contest to be the first indie band ever on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and that was well over 10 years ago now. Jim joined shortly after that to play guitar with them. He's a multi-instrumentalist. Electric guitar, acoustic guitar, mandolin, pedal steel, fiddle. He's wickedly, wickedly talented. Apparently, one of his first sort of brushes with the music business is he caught the eye of Jeff Healey when Jeff Healey was still alive, and actually got to play at Jeff Healey's bar in Toronto when he was like 14 years old, something to that effect. You can Google the story, it's out there, I'm sure. But anyway, Jim Boskill played with the Sheepdogs, doesn't anymore, because he left the Sheepdogs to join this band, Blue Rodeo. There's Jim on the back there. In 2018, 17, when pedal steel player Bob Egan, my good friend, retired from Blue Rodeo, Jim Boskill was his replacement and has played with them ever since. Wickedly talented. And I don't have the album I want to show, but Jim also has another group, a country duo called Brooks and Boskill. Great acoustic sort of country stuff. I need to just find a copy of that album. I haven't found one yet, but great. Multi-instrumentalist in general, but just a damn good guitar player. Plays a great acoustic guitar. Number 5, show a Canadiana album you need to spin again. This is Alan Doyle, a gentleman right there. This is an album called Back to the Harbor, which came out in 2021. Love Alan Doyle, former frontman of the Great Big Sea. He's been touring solo now for, 15 years. This couple folks from his band, this is Corey Tetford, his guitar player, and that's my pal, his fiddle player, Kendall Carson. And this was the producer on this album, Joel Plaskett, who is a successful Canadian musician in his own right. Alan does sort of Newfoundland folk music. So it's Canadian music about the East Coast with kind of a Celtic twist to it, and also kind of a rock pop kind of tinge as well. I love all his stuff. For some reason, I just couldn't get into this album. I guess I need to just listen to it some more. Like all his other albums, just this one never really grabbed my attention, so I guess I just need to give it a little more love or a little more time. So, Alan Doyle, Back to the Harbor. Number 6, your most listened to Canadian artist. Anyone that knows me knows that this is no surprise. I've tried to avoid talking about these guys lately because some of my friends in the vinyl community, you know who you are, like to make fun of me because I talk about these guys so much. But they're my favorite band, so piss off. Blue Rodeo. My favorite band. Legends in the Canadian music industry. Hall of Fame guys. Almost 40-year history making music. 15 or 16 albums, something like that. I have everything they've ever put out. I've seen them 51 times in concert. That's not an exaggeration. I've met everyone in the band. They're my go-to. They're what I listen to the most. Not just Canadiana, just music in general. I listen to these guys more than I listen to anything. What I love is that they have so many albums, and there is a progression to their music. So, they sort of have gone through periods. So, but it's still that at its core, it's country rock, it's Canadiana. These guys are real stalwart ambassadors of the Canadian cultural experience. This is their 2016 album, Thousand Arms, which I really, really like. Great record. My buddy Bob, this is the last album he played on. And there's a chance one of my guitars is on this record. There is a black Telecaster Deluxe back there that I built that Bob took to the studio when they were recording this record. And he played it on some of the songs. Did those takes ever make the record? Who knows? He doesn't even remember. But there's a chance one of my guitars is on this record. Number 7, most listened to Canadian album of 2024. A no-brainer for me again. Adam Baldwin, Concertos and Serenades. I have talked about this album as often as I possibly can because it is so incredibly good. Adam is a rocker from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, but he put together a folk record. He wrote it kind of like a Stan Rogers kind of record. It's a folky record about life in Eastern Canada. And it's a very storytelling album, and it's absolutely incredible. One of my favorite albums of all time. I think it's that incredibly good. So, seen Adam countless times. Like many of these albums I've shown, this is autographed. But just a great storytelling folk rock record in the tradition of sort of Gordon Lightfoot. It's amazing. I can't rave about this enough. Number 8, show an underrated Canadian album. I'm going to go with this one. This is the self-titled album by the Skydiggers. This came out in, I want to say like late 80s, 89, something like that. I love the Skydiggers. They are from Toronto. They're a folk rock group. They're still making records today. A few lineup changes, but it's still principally Andy Mays and Josh Finlayson. They are incredible, wickedly talented guys. Unless you're really into Canadian music, though, you're probably not too familiar with them. They had one really big hit that was all over Much Music back in the day, and it's on this. It's called I Will Give You Everything. This is an incredible record. Some of their best songs are on here. 80 Odd Hours, We Don't Talk Much Anymore. This is a fantastic record. And if you want to get into the Skydiggers, this is the place to start. They're an underrated band in general, but this is an underrated album. This is just a fantastic Canadiana sort of folk record. Number 9, show a Canadiana collaboration. This is the first one my mind absolutely went to. This is Greylands. Greylands, this came out in 2014. This is Wayne Petty. He's also the frontman of Cuff the Duke. This is a kind of a side project that he did. And this is called Songs by Other People. And what this is him covering songs by other artists. And he does them with other artists, but not the artist that wrote the songs. So, some pretty stellar cast of Canadian musicians, to name a few. Hayden, Greg Keeler, Sarah Harmer, Randy Bachman from BTO, Joel Plaskett. So these are great cover songs done by other Canadian artists. Yeah, it's just a fantastic record. They only ever made 300 of this record, so it's not an easy one to find, but a really, really enjoyable Canadiana collaboration. And many of these songs sort of have that Cuff the Duke kind of feel to it, obviously, because that's Wayne Petty. Number 10, show an underrated album by your favorite Canadian artist. So if my most listened to Canadian artist is Blue Rodeo, it's not surprising that they're also my favorite. So an underrated album by them, yes, there is one. I love this album called The Days in Between. This came out in 2000, and it is my favorite of their albums. The band hates this record. Don't know why. They do not play anything from this record. I saw them on this tour, and aside from one other occasion where they played one song, I've never heard anything else off this record since it came out in 2000. I asked my buddy Bob when he was in the band, why don't they play this? He goes, I don't know. Jim and Greg don't like this record. They recorded it in New Orleans. I love it. It's a little less country and a little more rock, but still, it's still a country rock record. I like to call it like a grandpa rock record. It's more electric guitar, not a lot of pedal steel. Still some of it in there though. Just a really enjoyable. The single off of here was called Somebody Waits. Got a lot of Play on Much Music. This was the album that introduced me to this band. I absolutely love this. This is virtually impossible to find on vinyl. Number 11, show a Canadiana album with a suit on the cover. How about 4 suits? Sam, will that suit you? Love this record. This is the Sadie's Darker Circles. This came out 2010. Sadie's have been going for 30 some odd years. Unfortunately, this gentleman right here, one of the 2 brothers, Dallas Good, he passed away unexpectedly about 1.5 years ago, but they're still carrying on as a trio, and they just put out a new record with Rick White as the vocalist. This is great. I love these guys. They're sort of like, very jangly guitars, Gretsch Country Gents kind of thing, and Telecasters, Sam's are right up your alley. Sort of cosmic cowboys is how I like to describe them, but they can play anything. They can play rock, they can play blues. They were Nico Case's backup band for a while. Amazing, jangly. There's a lot of chicken picking on here, and then there's a lot of like real rock too. They're unique and they're amazing. So there they are with suits on, Sam. Number 12, a Canadiana album with a beard. Okay, there's a beard. That guy right there, AJ Johnson. This is Cuff the Duke. I mentioned them before. This was the album in 2012, the last one they released before they went on a 12-year hiatus. AJ's the drummer. I know him. He lives in the city that I live in. Yeah, he's in 2 other bands. He was in a band called Odd Years I like. I got one of their one album. And then he's in this other great band called Royal Castles, who's actually opening for Cuff the Duke on the current tour. They're kind of like a power pop garage rock band that AJ's in with his wife and somebody else. Looking forward to seeing them live. But yeah, Cuff the Duke, AJ. So he's got a beard. Number 13, show 2 Canadiana albums on the same label. My favorite label in Canada is a label called Six Shooter Records in Toronto. I have all of Whitehorse's stuff there on there. I've got some Luc Doucet. He's on there. But unfortunately, Luc Doucet is in Whitehorse, so I figured that's kind of cheating. So we're going to go this way instead. This is Matt Mays and El Torpedo. This was Matt's second album from 2000. Through Matt's entire career, he's been on Sonic Records, which is distributed by Warner Music Canada. This is a great rock record. Really, it is. And this is No Rest for the Wicked by Adam Baldwin, who I mentioned earlier. Adam is Matt's guitar player, and he is also signed to Sonic Records. This one's Adam's EP from 2019. Stellar. It's only 6 songs in here, but they are incredible. A little more rock than his folk record that I showed earlier, but probably my second favorite in his discography. Number 14, Canadiana Grail. Well, I got to mention the Sadies again. I don't have I really only have a couple Canadiana Grails, but the Sadies, who I mentioned earlier, this was very earlier in their career. This was in 1999. This is an album called Pure Diamond Gold. It is available on vinyl. I've never seen it in person. I've seen it twice on eBay, and both times it was north of $200, which is insane. I really hope to get this because I'd like to have everything that the Sadies put out on vinyl. Not all their albums are available on vinyl, most of them. The other one I really want to get, there was a documentary called Tales of the Ratfink, and they did the soundtrack for that. It's available on vinyl. I'd really like to find that as well. But we're going to go with this, Pure Diamond Gold by the Sadies. And last, number 15, a Canadiana album you're hoping for in 2025. Well, I really hope that Whitehorse puts out another record. This is their most recent, and it came out in 2022. So next year, it'll be 3 years ago. Luke and Melissa are amazing. They've done a roots album. They did a blues album. This is their country record. They did kind of a folk record. So, you know, they've done a lot of stuff. They kind of did a psychedelic kind of record as well. I think they're due for a new record, and I really hope one comes out. There they are in the back. See, Melissa's playing the acoustic. Luke's on his Gretsch White Falcon. I think they might be working on something because they just dropped a single on Friday that was a cover of a Lyle Lovett song. So maybe, let's hope, 2025, new Whitehorse record. Fingers crossed. There you go, Sam. There's my Canadian take on your Americana Vinyl Tag. Just as you requested. I hope I didn't disappoint. Curtis, Young LP Lovers, hopefully you'll take on this challenge and see what you've got that will fill these requirements. I'll leave a link to Sam's Americana Tag video in the description. Thanks everybody for watching. Catch you on the flip side. Bye.